This is my last chance to get earnings this season. After a quick warm-up, we are jumping straight into game 1. Now in game 1, you want to play more aggressive than usual since it's the lowest elo you will have the whole tourney. I'm going to fight whoever is near me immediately off spawn.
Hey bro, I hear you crouch walking down there. You might as well just, come on up. I'm baiting. Dead.
This guy gave us the perfect loadout to be aggressive. The ODM is one of the best items for W key games, and it's the perfect tool to clear the vault at Bastion to get the mythic pump. So that's exactly where we're heading.
All right, time to clear the vault, boys. Wish me luck.
Now this guy definitely thought he was being smart here, but ended up just being a free elim. Now after getting the mythic pump, I decided to pick up the web shooter so I can quickly get to Loot Island and get the mythic pulse rifle. If I can get this thing, I will be perfectly stacked to win the game. Now I wouldn't usually go for the pulse, but again, since it's our first game, I'm willing to play a bit more aggressively than usual. Now, as soon as I captured the flag here, I got immediately pushed by a player who wanted the pulse. We ended up cracking each other, and the other player could tell I was simply just gonna grief him before I give up any of the loot, so he ended up leaving. Now from here, I decided to simply focus on rotating and trying to secure the win. We've already played a bit aggressive, and we have some crazy loot, so let's just play this thing out.
GG. GG. Well played. We took our time, made a couple mistakes, but we took our time. That's all that matters.
After winning game 1, we are sitting at 35 points and are feeling super confident going into game 2. We are looking really good in order to qual for finals. Our mission in game 2 is simply get looted and make it to the end game. On my way, however, I ended up getting pushed by this player. He caught me really off guard, so I immediately made about 4 boxes for myself to stay in, and it ended up making this player just simply leave me alone. I guess he thought it wouldn't be worth his time to try to fight someone who was going to keep tarping. Now, I eventually made my way to dead side of zone 6, and while refarming, I got pushed again. Now, I hit a really good pre-fire on this player, which made them disengage, but the ODM attack wasted even more of my mats. And while on my way to the next zone, I got shot out while ODMing, and pushed again, which wasted even more mats and shields. I'm slowly getting all my mats and shields drained for game 2. Now, after this player finally backed off, I made my rotate, and this is where I made a mistake that completely sold this game.
Absolutely agrees.
I got the flare gun and attempted to mark everyone around me, but ended up shooting the flare gun against my wall in my box and ended up cracking myself. Now, this wouldn't have been such a big deal, but I used all of my extra heals before this, meaning I was now going into late game with literally no shields and low white HP. And when I finally made my rotate, this ended up happening. Game 3 was basically a repeat of Game 2. I got pushed in the early game, which wasted tons of my mats and heals. And then I got pushed and griefed again towards the late game when trying to get my loot cache. And here I am finding myself again going into late game with basically no heals or materials. One of the biggest takeaways for me here is simply keeping my head on more of a swivel while rotating and being more aware of what's around me. I think that'll help me avoid some of these players pushing me randomly and griefing my shields and mats.
Oh, no, I see that. I need to go get those. Just got them.
And from here, I simply couldn't find the refresh I needed, and we ended up placing 14th. Now, we are still on pace to qualify for finals after that really good game 1, so let's see if we can wrap up round 1 in game 4 with a win. Now, in game 4, I went in with the intention to stick to the plan, get looted, find rotations, and stick to the late game. But while getting my loot cache, I realized I only had 3 games left, and with just under 10 minutes to queue, I decided to push a player on their loot cache next to mine. I figured if I died right away, I could just re-queue, get into my final game, and we'll be good to go.
I just teleported to that. Oh. Dead. GG. Okay, I got the kill. I'm staying in. Oh, he gave me Spideys too.
This fight was way closer than I would have liked, but this gave us a huge refresh, and we now have everything we need to win going into this late game. So let's just hit these rotations.
How high is height? Ooh, pretty high. Reached. I love that. 20 fall. 50 fall. Ooh. Nice. Perfect. I got it like that in the match part though. Am I height? No, I'm not. Go, chill out. Oh, God, that kid was 10 HP.
Now we're ending this with 75 points, and at this point we are 100% qualified for finals. Let's jump to round 2. And just a quick note, I was having audio issues, so all of my finals basically has no game audio, so I'll be narrating the whole thing. It's game 1 of finals, and this is our last chance to make earnings this season. We have one mission, which is to get stacked up on loot and heals and make it to the late game. After getting a shoddy, some movement, and fishing for some heals, I headed straight for my loot cache. I was able to secure my loot cache with no issues. But of course it's not that simple. As soon as I leave my loot cache, a player lands on me and tries to key me. I got one decent tag on the player, so he decided to run. Now, this is where I made a really important decision. I am sticking to the plan. I could have gotten emotional and chased this player, but remember, the only way to get these earnings is by winning the game. There's no point in griefing myself any further by chasing this player and getting third-partied or potentially losing the fight. So I continued on my rotations. Now, the crazy part is the same player tried keying me about 3 minutes later once I was in zone. Now, this time I absolutely slapped him with a max damage shot with a gold pump. And I started to apply a bit of pressure, but other players around us started looking and spraying. And at this point, I've made it this far, so I decided to chill instead of risking getting jumped on by one of those other players around us. And again, this is because I have literally all the loot I could possibly need to win, so I don't want to sell by taking a dumb fight in the middle of other players. So instead of chasing as this player tarped away, I let him go. Now from here, I rotated to the dead side of zone, and unfortunately, once the next zone revealed itself, it pulled to the exact opposite side of zone where I was literally just at. And as I rotated back, this happened. A player randomly decided to spidey on me, and I made a huge mistake here. I should have immediately boxed when I saw it coming. However, I tried to 50-50 the shot, and I ended up missing and getting hit pretty hard. I built a couple pieces, but didn't cover my top, and that allowed the player to grab those pieces and just simply jump in and finish the even. Now, this was a bummer for sure because I literally had the best possible loadout, but we can't sweat it, so let's just stay cool and jump to game 2. Game 2, we have the exact same plan. Get looted, find movement, and go to our loot cache. However, this time a player decided to contest me at my loot cache. Now, these slurps are basically a must in order to win these victory cache cups because they all go to heal offs. So I decided to play as aggressively as possible and try to push the player off. Now, he did manage to snag my slurps, and he did pop one heal after I hit him. but I managed to get the elim and save that one last slurp for late game. We basically have what we need, so let's get to the end game and let's get these earnings. Now we made it to the end game with 0 issues, but this is where things started to get a little sketchy. I spideyed out right onto enemy builds, which meant once I accidentally landed, I had to wait for cooldown on my spideys. And as I waited, I started to tarp and I got ODM'd by another player, forcing me to use some of my heals really early that I was gonna try to use for heal off. After healing, I made my next few rotates as best I could, and again I got ODM'd, which burnt even more of my mats and heals. And I unfortunately couldn't find the refresh I needed, and we were basically just left out in the open. So somebody jumped down onto us, and then we ended up placing 9. And game 3 was also shambles because we had a really bad drop and we died off spawn. Overall, not too bad on performance today, mainly in round 1. We placed 1067. Stay tuned guys, because I just recently played duos and got my best cash cup placement ever. I'll be making a video on that soon, and I really appreciate all the support on the last solo cash cup video guys. I am looking forward to more solos next season.